Hey there guys, so I want to thank you again for checking out today's video as always. Again, I really do appreciate you guys taking the time to really watch these videos. And of course, share your thoughts as you have in the comments. I really do appreciate that. It does, give me, of course, a lot of peace in my life, just thinking about the transitional period that I've went through over the past month and the past year, or over the past month and year I should say. And again, I really enjoy sharing these topics and diving deeper into them, and of course being a voice again for you guys and being someone that you can listen to as well, and understand similar experiences. So, what I wanted to talk about today, and that had been on my mind, it's been on my mind for a while. And I mean, I would say it's been on my mind for the past 5 years, to be honest. It's been something that I've thought about very deeply. And honestly, I think it's something that I shouldn't really worry about and think about as much. But it still crosses my mind because, again, like I've mentioned before, I'm a very deep thinker in a lot of ways, and I always have been. Even when I was younger, just throughout my life, I've always thought very deeply about a lot of different things. And that's, again, I think why, like I've mentioned, health and fitness and, psychology and things like that have always interested me, because I've just been somebody who really thinks, very deeply about a lot of things. So, what I wanted to discuss today is about aging, and particularly aging, for gay men, and sort of how different it is, especially when you're a gay man and approaching, getting older. Because as we all know, as a gay man, there's always been that, sort of period where we hear of the gay death, where it's, when you turn 30, that you're pretty much undesirable, which is not true, of course. But we always think about that period, and that was something that I always thought about, and that's, I'm 31 now, which really seems unreal because it just seems like time just flies. Because it seemed like not too long ago I was in high school, and I'm pretty sure you guys feel the same way, as life just continues to speed up as we age, and so what's very different, when you're a gay man, is that, the culture, that we can live in can be very focused on a lot of youth, on, you know, being really, the ideal body type and things of that nature. And, even though my main focus has been on fitness, I've always tried not to, emphasize so much about the idea of, aesthetics and physique, when it comes to taking care of yourself, as you age, but of the idea of taking care of yourself, in a more, overall physical manner, not just for the appearance side of things, but for being physically, longevity, as you age, being able to, again, take care of yourself physically. I think it matters because you do feel so much better as you age. And so that's one thing I've tried to focus on. And, when it comes to this topic, and I really do make it a focus that I want to be, again, approachable to, gay men in a way, and understand, our main focus is to help out those men who feel, outside of that space, and so that's why I've made this the focus. But again, going, back into aging, we all can have that feeling where we feel like time is up. I've had that feeling myself. It's a very unusual feeling. The feeling of aging is sort of becoming self-aware of what that means. And I think a lot of it too, is the aspect, of mortality. This is something that I've kind of been sort of been researching and sort of been thinking about. And again, when we're gay men, it seems like, our options can kind of be limited because a lot of men, of course, they desire the more youthful kind of guys. And, it becomes hard. And that's like something that I think about, we all are going to reach the point where we age. It's just inevitable that we're going to face that. And we have to just, really live our life as we can, in the best way possible. And that's one thing that I've really tried to make a focus after I turned 30. That was one thing that I really was like, okay, I can't, because I was really trying to live in this box, trying to be this ideal person, trying to, you know, be, just this perfect person. But the, and I got to a point to where it was kind of breaking me. So I just got to the point where I've got to live life. I've got to be myself. I have to just go out and enjoy life because it's just going to go by so much faster. It's going to get faster every year, and before I know it, I'm going to, get old. We all get old, no matter how old we are. It's going to get faster each and every year. So the best thing you can do is be your authentic self. Live an authentic life. Try to be there for somebody. Try to be, you know, a positive force for somebody as well, because we're all, it's inevitable that we'll reach our time. And it's just important to live as fulfilled as we can, while we have what we have. And again, what I want to say is that if you are somebody who is older, and, you're gay and really struggling with that dynamic of feeling undesirable, I don't want you to feel that way. There are people that care about you, there are people that love you, and do not, let the perspective of, you know, like the beauty perspective or the handsome guy's perspective be, sort of cloud your judgment and to think that you're not desirable, because there's a lot of things that we can learn as we age. We gain so much more knowledge and clarity. Something that I think that I've learned, as I've continued to get older, is I've learned how much, it's better to just, again, live more in the moment and live more, basically focusing on what you have here in the present, focusing on, what you are able to do in the present, and knowing that, this is the youngest that you'll be in your life, and just, living with that and knowing, okay, enjoying what I have today, and not, of course, planning for the future, but not so much as to, really worry for the future. And that's another thing too, is that there's a lot of, again, things that just become so loud, and that we just feel like as we age, like it's just over, and it's not. There's so many things that we can learn. Life is a continuous, lesson. It's a continuous class of, continuing to learn things about ourselves and to really dive into, so many new experiences each, era in our life. And that's kind of what I've been thinking about this, as I've turned 30, is that been thinking about this as being a new era rather than me, just aging, and getting older. I've been trying to think of it as a separate era, kind of like what we think with some music artists. Think of it as going into a different era that's going to bring, a new type of flavor to your life, a new, sort of focus, a new perspective. And I think that's the way we need to see it, where we're at. There's so many benefits that come with aging. And, another thing too is that I think there's kind of pros and cons to both sides. When we're younger, we think that, it's so much better to be an adult. When we're older, there's sort of this dichotomy where when we're younger, we want to be older, but when we're older, we want to be younger. There's going to be sort of that push and pull. And it's because we don't have that full knowledge when we're younger. We don't have the knowledge of what it's like to be an adult. We think of being an adult as having, complete freedom, when in reality, that's not truly the case. But then another thing, too, when we talk about being gay and aging, uh, it's different. It's different versus like if you're somebody who, when you're aging and you're straight, there's a whole different perspective that they have. Whereas when you're gay, you're unsure of, is marriage going to happen? Am I going to be able to get married? Am I going to, what's going to happen next? Am I, where is my life going? Will I be able to, do certain things? Will I be able to, find people that I relate to as friends, like a chosen family? There's a lot of questions that come, being gay and getting older versus somebody else, because, you may not have that, you may not have somebody with you, and you may not have sort of that connection with others. And I think that's another fear, that we can have too. But I think what matters most is that we stay authentic to ourselves. We take care of ourselves. I think that's the biggest thing too. Physically taking care of yourself, mentally as well, really, again, whether you are somebody who is spiritual or not, I think it does help to ground ourselves in a lot of ways, to really be, focus on being more mindful, or, practicing more mindfulness again, like staying in the present. I think is very important. But what the main takeaway that I wanted to mention in this is that just because, even though we get older, that does not mean that there's not more exciting experiences that are going to happen. That does not mean that we may not find, the ideal relationship, because we never know what's around the corner. And we never know when our life could transform into something better that we couldn't have imagined when we were in our 20s or 30s or any stage in our life. So see, again, as this next phase, or whatever phase you're at in your life, as a new era. These, this next decade, when we go from our 20s to our 30s, through these different sort of eras we go through, different phases, we are a completely different person. We're constantly evolving, changing, and really finding ourselves. I think life too is a constant sort of, and again, like an evolution of finding who we are and understanding exactly what we want out of life. And we're constantly learning. I think it's really, a good thing that we're constantly trying to discover ourselves and really find our identity. Because, like I've mentioned before, there's been many times where I've felt like I don't, I don't fit in with a lot of different people. And I've always felt that way because I think deeply about a lot of things. And sometimes I think, well, I don't think others really think as, internally as I do, and really, again, really ruminate on these things. But again, I think it's going to be even worse, as I continue to age. It's always kind of been like that way, but aging has been one thing that I didn't expect to think about as much as I have over these past 5 years. Because it started whenever I was 25. I was really internally thinking, okay, this stuff is happening fast. It's getting faster and faster, and just kept thinking, I've got to start living my life. I can't just expect this to be over. There's more to life. We're not going to stay young forever. So again, guys, I hope that this helped in a lot of ways. This is something that I really wanted to talk about. It's something that's been on my mind. And I think we do get hung up on, being youthful, being young, when it's inevitable that we're going to face aging. It's just going to happen, you know. may look good at one time, and then down the road, we age. It's just everybody's going to go through it. And so I just think it's important to feel the moment that you're in. Really, again, think about the moment that you're in and really savor it as much as you can, because it's not going to come back. you know, those moments are not going to come back. But what you can do as you move forward is to expect even better moments to happen, and to, again, continue to enjoy life as it comes and take advantage of every moment that's going to happen, because once it's past, it's done. So, thank you guys once again. I know it can be hard, especially when you're a gay man and trying to, grasp the concept of aging and finding somebody and having a sense of peace in your life, but I really think it is possible. Even though I myself have been going through a lot of transitional sort of things here recently, I still have a sense of hope. I always, in my life, even though I've went through a lot of different, you know, situations that have happened and experiences, I still have had some type of hope that has kept me pushing through, and is, I've always tried to remind myself that there is something better. There are better days that are around the corner, and so that's what I've always tried to, really internalize into my mindset, to think of the positive. But thank you guys once again for checking out this video. I will, of course, be sharing some more thoughts as the week goes. But if there's anything you guys want to share, feel free to let me know. If you want me to talk about anything further, I would love to do that. But again, the reason why I'm sharing these things and being, like with these videos, I try not to edit them. I try to keep them, as, real as possible. But the reason why I do these is to, again, talk to you guys and to really know that there's somebody there for you. That's one thing I've always focused on. That's why I'm in fitness. That's why I'm into health, because I do have this care for people, and especially, you know, anybody who understands what I've went through, like being gay. It's an experience that very few people experience, but it's very hard, and it's something. It's hard to find, those people that really understand what you're going through, and that's why, again, why I'm sharing these, different thoughts. But thank you guys once again. I really appreciate it, and I really hope that you found this, insightful and helpful. And I will see you guys in the next one.